Hello everybody, my name is William Letnowski and I'm reading the Scott Pilgrim books once again. For those of you who don't know me personally, these are my favorite comic books, and I'm here to talk about the character of Scott Pilgrim. Okay, first we gotta talk about one thing I cannot say I hate. They're everywhere. Especially, what the fuck? Especially when you are in school. Okay, so these things are called players. They're the boy version of a slut. You may be saying, but guys like when their friends are players. It's still a boy version of a slut. The reason why all guys, I say all guys, I'm a guy and I don't like players, but this is the reason why most guys love the player. Love when their friends are players, or their friends are like, "Ooh, I just hooked up with some bitch last night." What? Everyone else is like, "Oh!" Grabbing their kegs and beers and dabbing on those haters, whatever the fuck. This reason is cause that rumor about us thinking with our dicks is 100% true. And never is that more present than in a love story comic book that is secretly about getting your life together. So our main character is 23-year-old Scott Pilgrim, who is a player. From the first comic, Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life, and the second one, Versus the World, which, fun fact, the movie was chose the title name of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So, throughout all of that, from the time he met Ramona, which was like chapter 3 or something, to the first half of the second book, he is juggling two chicks. Scott's main love interest and girlfriend throughout the entire thing, 24-year-old, at this time it's age unknown, but yeah, 24-year-old Ramona Flowers, the kick-ass hot chick who somehow sees the good in Scott and is willing to give him the chance he thinks he deserves.
Film that everyone declares is so perfect, they'll happily celebrate a remake claiming they can do it better. This is The Lion King.
And the next girl is Knives Chow, a 17-year-old innocent girl who, okay, the equivalent of breaking her heart is like grabbing my dog Dobie, grabbing him by the throat, and bashing his head in repeatedly into this door, and then recording it and claiming it is a comedy video on YouTube. Go on, Dobie. If I didn't make my point across, let's just say it's one of the worst things Scott does, but it doesn't make him unlikable. See, the one thing that women think all players are bad people.
It's not a big difference, but has anyone noticed that
No. Scott Pilgrim is, as you will find if you read the book, and I highly recommend you read all 6 of them. They're quick reads. You can get them at your local Barnes & Nobles, and they've been combined to make a shorter thing, so if you don't want them to take too much space in your room, you can get the 2019 versions, which combine the comics and some bonus features, and they're all colored. Because, yeah, it comes in 3 copies. 3 copies. You can get the colorless copies, which are the ones I have. You can get the colored copies, which came out to help promote the movie along with the video game and the movie itself, which I also own. Or you can get the newer versions, which will take up less space. But they may worry you because they're huge, when meanwhile, the 6th one is the only book that is remotely even gonna take you multiple days if you are a quick reader. Because this is the literal length of the other books. They only get smaller from here. Here's a better look at the spine. This is the 3rd book, The Infinite Sadness. And I was reading it and I was like, Scott's actually a player. He's a what did Julie say? Hold on. Julie says something about it in a flashback.
I have no choice but to use the same joke. Such a bitch. Some time goes by and Prince Simba, voiced by Jonathan Taylor Thomas, is shown by his father how to be a noble king.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Here it is. He's a total lady killer wannabe jerky jerk.
That's reserved
And what
for
makes
me.
him likable? Well, for one, he's really, really funny. The majority of Scott's lines, or
Way around it.
yeah, lines of dialogue in the movie and in the book are comedic gold. Another thing that makes him likable is he's actually a really good guy.
But our bodies become
Yeah, he does horrible things, but we all have done horrible things. I literally made a video about how I did horrible things, and a lot of you actually still like me.
okay, it's Darwin.
If that doesn't prove my point, nothing will.
Conveniently fall in our direction.
Next, he
Now,
isn't
sounding like a true king.
really... Being a player isn't really a bad thing. It's if you use that to become an asshole about it.
Wait, I have more animal gems from my kindergarten book.
If you use it to be an asshole, then that doesn't make you a player, it makes you an asshole.
That's 2 minutes the audience.
For example, I know someone, and I would never use his name in all of my... His name is Brandon.
Taunts him with what's in the Shadowlands.
I'm sorry I couldn't help myself. I hate his guts. If he stops coming to school, I won't care.
You're getting to make my mascara run.
But
This is obviously
he would be the representation of an unlikable Scott Pilgrim.
She wants to come.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to figure out if there's any likable... I'm not saying this because... I'm saying this from what other people have said about me, who are also fans of Scott Pilgrim. Like, literally, I gave it to one of my friends. I said, here, I know you don't like reading, but I promise, just read these books. And I gave him the colored ones that I rented from the library. Within a day, he brought them back to me. Quick reader, he just doesn't like reading. And he said, you know, you remind me a lot of Scott Pilgrim. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It just, a lot of what he said is something you would say if you thought of it. And a lot of what he does are things you actually do or have done in the past. One of the things he said to prove his point
As we partake in the feel-good song that usually
was
focuses on the comic relief getting tortured, and
the
the hardest level
whininess I have about doing things. Scott is willing to fight for Ramona. That does not mean he is not willing to... That does not mean he is going to give up his right to complain and be a whiny bitch about having to fight her 7 evil exes. I should have probably told you, Ramona has 7 evil exes. This is a player dating a female player, aka in bitchy, in those basic bitches terms, a slut, a whore, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm calling it female player because slut is seen as negative, yet player is seen as, oh, get the fucking keg!
What's that?
Say what? He just fucked my mother on a pool table. If you don't get that reference, that means you did not ever watch 90s movies. That is an American Pie reference. What? Get me that pussy. Whoa. I'm done yelling. Whoa. I am not done yelling. I want the chicken fries. Hey, bro. What's up? I forgot what the fuck I was saying. Anyway,
Oh, Christ.
Twitter says I should always be offended.
What did I tell you?
she has 7 evil exes. Slut is seen as negative, but player is seen as, what? Oh, no he didn't. Mo.
Wondering if Nala is getting the same treatment from her.
Mo? Okay, anyway. So, throughout these books, you can see that, like, Scott is trying his hardest to leave his past behind. Introducing Nega Scott, a physical manifestation of Scott trying to leave his past behind. Something we all do. As teenagers, and this is literally for my 13 to 17-year-old audience, as teenagers, we do try our hardest to forget our past. We want to move forward, but we're afraid to move forward while continuing to think of the past. We think you can only dwell in your past or move forward. We don't know that there is a middle ground. but there is a middle ground. You can move forward while also remembering your past so you don't make the same mistakes again. When Scott first sees Nega Scott, or at least first like come across him in like a big way in book 6, Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour, where he has to fight Gideon, the big bad, Evil X, or the final boss. When he meets Nega Scott while talking to his ex Kim after retreating to her house because she left Toronto to go to live with her parents to think about things, and he sort of visited her. He tries to fight her. Not her. He tries to fight Nega Scott. And this is okay, so spoilers. Pause this video if you actually are going to go read Scott Pilgrim, because I'm about to spoil something huge. At the end of number 5, Scott rushes home after defeating the Katayanagi twins and finds Ramona literally leaving. She literally, because this is like not meant to be based in reality, it's meant to be based in like its own world, and so she's literally disappearing. Or in this case, teleporting, because spoiler, she goes to her dad's house. And she says she'll miss him, and it's been fun, and the nicest guy he ever dated.
Who else could have ordered a duck but Doug? I think when I was shopping online, someone stole my information, made another me, and then sold me to me, delivered by me.
Yeah, sounds right.
And so she just leaves him, and then flash forward a few months, and Scott Pilgrim's a total wreck. He lives in an apartment now that Wallace, his gay roommate, his old gay roommate at this point, sometimes visits. And he does nothing but sleep and play video games all day. He got fired from his job. He doesn't have Ramona anymore to keep his life together. He lost it all, and so now he doesn't even want to try to get it all back. He's basically, Gideon has been trying to like commence another fight for months, and he's been avoiding all of it. Like, because that's what happens. Throughout the majority of the time, they'll try to like reach out to Scott. Like the first one, the first Evil in the Precious Little Life, because it's 1X minus the Katayanagi twins. That's why there's 6 and there's 7 Evil X's, because the Katayanagi twins are, twins. They're 5 and 6, so they share book number 5. Because he fights them at the same time. And he's been basically avoiding it. The Katayanagi twins show up at a party and send a robot after Scott, which he ends up beating the shit out of, but at that time, the twins have disappeared. In the first book, Matthew Patel, the first Evil X, sends him a text and an email. Not text and email. Because the first book came out in 2004, the 6th book came out in 2010, so 2004 has old technology, so it was an email and a letter.
What am I supposed to say?
And I mean a box computer email before Gmail was a thing, or before Gmail was widely used. And so Scott basically has been blowing off this creature, like, been blowing off Gideon and his friends. Steven Stills has started a new band without him, because Scott is in a band in these books, the Sex Bomb. And he's basically given up on trying. All he has in his house is ramen noodles and water. Tap water. Not even like a jug of water, he has tap water. He has nothing. And so he tries his hardest to, like, not. He doesn't want to anymore. Then Ramona comes back. And this is where you find out that you can redeem yourself from being a player. You can be a good person again. Because in that moment, Scott tries to fight for Ramona, and he dies. But because he gets an extra life, because this runs on video game logic, he gets an extra life that appears in the afterlife. He collects it, and he can refight Gideon. But this time, he's not fighting for Ramona. He's fighting Gideon because he has unfinished business and he doesn't want to fail. He fights Gideon for his own self-respect. And not only does he do this, he apologizes to Kim because he was an asshole while dating her.
Regardless, this is a tough scene to get through. And as much as we like to make fun of the whole JTT craze that was going on,
He apologizes to Neil, promoting him to, young Neil, and promoting him to just Neil. He apologizes to everyone. And even in, book number 5, I believe is what it was. It was either book number 5 or book number 4. When given the chance to cheat again, he doesn't do it. When given a chance to cheat on Ramona with an old friend of his named Lisa Miller, he doesn't do it. He kindly, I might add, declines the offer to have sex with Lisa because he's done trying to be an asshole. He's done trying to be the cool guy who sleeps with all those women. He's ready to finally get his life together, which is why book number 4 is cleverly called Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together, and why this whole series is secretly about Scott Pilgrim trying to get his life together. And I really love that this book is about a player coming into his own, finding love, redeeming his mistakes, helping her with hers through violence, but metaphors, and then getting his happy ending, the life he always wanted to live, finally growing up. And that's why I believe that these simple, immature comic books are secretly one of the greatest pieces of literature, film, video game, and card game in the whole world. And I recommend you read these. I really, really, even if you're not a reader, watch the movie. It's really good too. But I recommend you either read the books, watch the movie, or do both. Hell, play the video game. It's fun, if you can find it. It's not on sale anymore. Anyway, Brian Lee O'Malley's Scott Pilgrim is one of the greatest series of all time, and Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is one of the greatest comic book films ever. Remember what you learned today. Being a player doesn't always mean you're a hopeless case when it comes to redeeming yourself. Anyone can face their past. But, and listen to my words when I say this, anyone can redeem their past, but it takes a serious person with it takes someone with serious balls, male or female. The metaphor doesn't work, I don't know. But yeah, it takes someone with serious balls or guts to face their past immediately. I promise you, if you're a teenager audience, you will try to run it first. But it isn't worth it, and I really hope I am wrong, but I am pretty sure you will run it first. I did it too. But then I made that video, and upon making it, I wasn't doing it just to say sorry. I was doing it because I was ready to face my problem. My shit. The stuff I wanted to do. Sure, it's weird to put your stuff out there on the internet like that, but I know at least the majority of my 39 fans like me and want to know how I'm doing and shit. And being a player isn't going to ruin your life. It's wrong, yes. But as a teenager, technically we're all players. We're all gonna date someone and then move on. Nothing lasts forever, especially not love. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't fall in love. If love doesn't last forever, then here's what you do. You realize Love doesn't last forever, and you make the most out of what you got. You be happy with that special person. You hold on to them like the world is about to end and you want to be with them as you die. You cherish every moment you spend talking with that person on the phone, dating them, being with them, kissing them. If you aren't a Christian couple or just waiting till marriage, enjoy the sex. Enjoy the everything that that person can give you. Hold on to them. I didn't. I took that special person for granted. And afterwards, all I could do is take women for granted. Not women friends, but the ones who actually liked me. I took them all for granted. Don't do that. Face your past. My name is William, and I'm signing off with read these, watch the movie, play the video game if you have it and have a PS3 or Xbox 360.
You don't understand. My podcast is gonna make me rich, man.
And
Rich!
don't be afraid to face your past before the past corrupts you.
Although in hindsight, I guess I could just bring him.
Good night, everybody.
With plant life, water, food, and then you keep bumming it. I'll be right back.
What wouldn't I understand?
No, it doesn't matter.